How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to another episode of Boys in the Zone. Fun episode tonight. We got my boy Henny from HTMSports. Go ahead and shout yourself out, man. Let the people know where they can find you. I'm sure if they're a Cowboys fan, they probably already know about you, but do it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Y'all can find me at HTM Sports on YouTube, Henny the More on Facebook, and at More Henny on Twitter. Now, apologies if I cut you off in it because my got a little short in my headphones. So let me see if I can get the sound back working right. Say something for me real quick.
What up? What up? You
All right, we
good?
Gucci now. Yeah, we good now.
We Gucci. We Gucci. Man, a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Honestly, this is the get right episode for the Cowboys. What we can do during the off season, during draft season, free agency, all of the things that we need to do to set this team's best foot forward for the 2024 season. Um, Obviously, I think everybody in Cowboys land knows that it didn't end how we wanted it to. Bounced in the first round of the playoffs on our home field where we won 16 straight, where we averaged 40 at home, where we get an abundance of turnovers. It just seemed like everything that could go wrong went wrong in that game. And it's unfortunate, but we got to figure out how to fix it. We're all about solutions here, and we're going to do that in this episode. Hopefully, we can get the right necessary things in order, and hopefully Jerry Jones is tuning in. Honestly, got a shout out to my guys in the chat: AJ from Cowboys Can Fan, Vince P, Daniel Barry Sports. Seems like he's from your side. Regina Green, what's up, Henny? Sorry I missed the earlier show. Evening all from Jeff Hollis, and then Doug. What up, EJ? So glad to have everybody in the chat. Post some questions for us as well, but we're going to first jump into the first topic, which is Dak Prescott. And my sort of proposed question to you, Henny, is did the Cowboys put too much on Dak's plate? Were they too reliant on him and they didn't put the necessary pieces around him? I mean, if we're just being honest, the run game, the run blocking, those were the big things that kind of held us back as an offense. But do you think that they were a little bit too reliant on Dak Prescott?
I mean, man, we're being honest about our offense and our ability to do anything offensively. It's always been Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. My boy landlord from Alabama, he came up with a campaign that said spam Lamb, because really that's all your offense has been for majority of the year. Tony
Yep.
Pollard went on like an 8 or 9 week streak of not scoring a single touchdown. He had almost 60 more carries from last year, and he had less yardage. So he was less efficient. He was less explosive. And, he really probably came back a little bit too early from that leg injury. Just broke
Yeah.
his leg in January. He was taking starting running back reps by September. So Dak Prescott was tasked with doing a bunch offensively because their plan at running back was not very solid. They were relying on an injured Tony Pollard. When you look at Rico Dowd, he was an undrafted free agent out of Florida. While he does have potential, he himself also has an injury history. Matter of fact, this year he was on the injury report for an ankle injury for 2 months straight. You can go back and check that out. So your primary running backs were two guys who were playing through injury. You did not get any real production out of Deuce Vaughn, and Malik Davis is somebody that's somehow in the doghouse. So your running back room, was less than stellar, just to put it very, very politely. And I know a lot of people, were over Ezekiel Elliott when he left, but we did not actually go out and find anybody else to get us those 12 short yardage touchdowns. It sounds like anybody can do it until it's time to do it. We did
Yeah.
not have anybody that could just bully their way into the end zone like that. We saw what happened when we tried to give Tony Pollard the ball in the end zone multiple times. He had issues getting in. We saw Hunter Lukey fumble at the goal line. And we really didn't even give Rico Dowd enough opportunities to know if he was good enough to do it. So Dallas Cowboys playing at the run game meant that you had to have a quarterback playing at a high level. The issue is when you get into the postseason, it's a different brand of football. Like
Yes.
every team that made it into the championship round could run the football and they could stop the run. They may not have been prolific rushing teams during the course of the regular season, but in the postseason, they were able to be a multifaceted offense that could both run the ball, utilize play action, set up some easy stuff for their quarterbacks, and they were able to run the ball efficiently enough to stay ahead of the chains. We did not have that, nor did we have the capability of stopping the run ourselves. We know that Dan Quinn loves using the big nickel formation. You know, if I'm not mistaken, in this last game that we lost, we used big nickel in over 40 of our 58 defensive snaps. And that really didn't cut it. We saw that Aaron Jones was able to have over 100 yards rushing, 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground. And if we're just being honest, the Dallas Cowboys lost the football game the way they always lose a football game. Teams were able to run the football. They did not have to get into obvious passing situations, so we could not utilize our pass rush. And it all fell on the shoulders of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And it just didn't happen this time.
Yeah. And I think that looking at some of those other playoff games that we got to watch over the weekend, especially Championship Sunday, you saw defenses that were able to buy their offenses time to come back and score. Like Detroit, they got up big on the Niners. I think it was like 21 points at one point, or maybe only 17, something like that. But either way, they got that huge lead, and then it was the Niners defense, obviously aided by some drops and stuff like that by the Lions, and then Dan Campbell just kind of dumb coaching. But regardless, their defense stepped up when they needed to. And I think, I mean, maybe I'm on my own island with this idea, but Dan Quinn, since the time he's been here, the run defense hasn't been good. Now, you can date that back. You can date that back earlier than Dan Quinn, sure. But I'm just saying, for as good as he is as a defensive coordinator, that's one of the deficiencies that we have continually seen year after year after year. You went and addressed it, or thought you had addressed it, in the first round of the draft. I was on record of saying Mozzie Smith was a second-round guy to me. I wouldn't spend the first-round pick on him. You know, we draft him regardless. He's a star on his helmet. I'm going to root for him. But now he's lost all this weight, was a non-factor year one. Now he has to regain that weight to even be a one tech or a true nose tackle. It's one of those things that's kind of dumbfounding to me. And that's why, and we were kind of talking before the show a little bit about Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick are staying with their respective teams. So that opens the door for possibly a Dan Quinn departure. Who is a defensive coordinator that you want to see step into that role if Dan Quinn does leave?
I mean, we're being honest about the current situation of the Dallas Cowboys. There are not really a bunch of candidates that probably would want to come to Dallas and hitch their wagon to Mike McCarthy, knowing that there's a possibility of him being a dead man walking, right? You're not going to probably get a bright-eyed, young, up-and-coming defensive coordinator to come here when Mike McCarthy only has a year left on his contract. So, 9 times out of 10, the Dallas Cowboys are going to, they're probably going to just promote from within. I feel 9 times out of 10, it'll be Joe Witt. If Dan Quinn leaves, Al Harris already said that he wants to go with him. He's on record of saying that. So odds are.
You said Witt said that?
No, Al Harris.
Yeah.
Al Harris said he will probably leave with Dan Quinn, but Joe Witt would probably be the person that gets promoted from within the organization. So I have mixed feelings about Dan Quinn myself, because I feel one of his issues is his inability to, well, I should say refusal to match personnel. Even the Buffalo Bills, after the Buffalo Bills game, Josh Allen came out and said that was not the original plan to run the football as much as they ran the football. He said they just noticed that every time that they went with heavy formations, they would come out in 22 personnel, 21 personnel, 13 personnel. And Dan Quinn would just leave his big nickel out there. He'll leave his dime packages out there. So they made a concerted effort after they saw that to continue to run the football. Initially, they were going to go in and play the game how they normally play. They're going to have Josh Allen throw the ball all around the yard. But those are things that you just can't have. Right, you're already a smaller defense. You don't have superb size along your front as it is, and you're already playing guys out of position. I like Marquise Bell, but he's a safety, man. Like, having a 205-pound man taking on pulling guards and pulling tackles is not ideal for you, right? He's a better man than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes some balls to go out there and do what he's doing. So I respect him as a player, but I just think he's not big enough to be doing the job that they asked him to do. Same thing with J. Ron Curse. So there are some upsides to it. Of course, you're better in coverage, right? You're faster. But
Yeah.
when a team decides they want to run the football and just bludgeon you physically, you have no answers to it. At least you don't. At least you have not shown me that you have answers to it. Because, like you said, since 2021, they've been a middle of the pack or a subpar run defense the entire time that he's been here.
Well, and the only reason why that even looks good is because you've jumped out to leads with your electric offense, and then that forces the opposing team to have to pass the ball. But what you said about Dan Quinn sticking in that nickel, that's basically the Cowboys' base defense. Like, there's so many talks about 3-4, 4-3. Now, the Cowboys are like a 4-2 team because they remove that linebacker and they stick in a DB in place of that. That's what a nickel is. A dime is 6 DBs on the field, if you guys don't know that. But regardless of it, it's one of those things. It's so dumbfounding about how we don't match the physicality from the offense. The offense dictates what happens as a defense. If they substitute, you have by rule the same ability to substitute and match that personnel, whatever they bring it in. So if they are stuck in those 22 personnels with 2 running back, 2 tight ends, whatever it is, and they're going heavy, they bring in the extra linemen. We've got to get some guys that are in Hankins. I love Hankins. He's one of my. He follows me on Twitter. He's one of those dudes. But we can't just rely solely on Hankins. We got to get another big nasty in there because it seems like Hankins gets hurt at the worst time in the year, and then he comes back and he's not fully ready to go. We've got to invest another pick in that, or we have to sign somebody like a DJ Reader, a Justin Matabike, somebody from another team that is proven that they want to be that guy in the trenches. And with some of these guys in this free agency class, they not only give you the run aspect, but they give you some pass rush, and that's exactly what you were looking for in that Mozzie Smith pick that you haven't got to this point. So it's one of those things, man. I want to bring up this comment up here from Falcon. He says, I want Al Harris, just knowing how the defense rallies around him. And I would agree. I really like Al Harris and what he's done with this DB group. But apparently Dallas has had some back channel talks with Ron Rivera. Which brings me to my other question. Are the Cowboys too set in their old ways with going after these kind of old crusty coaches that have fallen out of favor with other organizations, and we bring them in like, hey, we know you were good 5-10 years ago, maybe you can be good again with our personnel? No, get some innovative minds. Like, speak on that, Henny.
Man, in my opinion, with the way that they run their organization, you people aren't lining up to come to Dallas like that, man. If we're being honest, like, guys are not lining up to come to Dallas because there is a bunch of front office interference, right? Because think about what Mike McCarthy has to go through as the head coach. He did not even get the opportunity to pick his own offensive coordinator. They kept Kellen Moore because that was their guy. They liked him. They wanted to groom him and bring him along. Mike McCarthy probably did not want Kellen Moore initially, and then they eventually fell out, and he got him out of here, and he started calling plays himself. Like, I don't really think up and coming offensive mind wants to come to Dallas. There's too much stuff going on up top. As long as Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones run their own interference, because you got to remember, like, Jerry Jones did not even talk to Mike McCarthy about bringing in Trey Lance. He made that call on his own. I'm not even sure if he talked to Will McClay about it. So it's hard to say that folks would, like, listen, and we probably do. We need some young minds. The game changes. It's usually a young man's sport. So you need some inventive guys with the way that this the NFL is moving. There's a lot of motion, a lot of different sets. So there's a lot of innovations that they've been making to these modern offenses and to these modern defenses, right? But the Dallas Cowboys are not like this luxury destination. Like, Jerry Jones runs the show. No matter if you're the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and we even had players come out and speak. Cole Beasley said, "Who's ever getting the money is going to get the targets." Right? He came out and said that they were trying to dictate targets. Dez Bryant recently said we're trying to dictate targets and different things like that. So I'm not really sure somebody can come to Dallas and flourish the way they want to. I don't think it's like this super attractive location. the Dallas Cowboys might be stuck with getting guys on their way out of the league. Because you got to think about it. Mike McCarthy, for some time, there was question if he was going to coach in the NFL again. Dan Quinn wasn't looked at in high regard because of what happened in Atlanta. So everybody that ends up here, like you said, they're on their second, third, fourth chance.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things, man. At some point, you've got to take a step back as an owner and realize, listen, whatever I've been doing these last 29 years has not worked. Maybe I am too hands-on. You look at the Chiefs. Obviously, they had Patrick Mahomes, but they had a worse record than you this year. They had to go on and play road playoff games, and they are in the Super Bowl because the players buy into that head coach, they buy into that culture. The owners are hands off. They're not seen like that. They're not chilling with the players. It's one of those things, man. The culture surrounded and cultivated by Jerry Jones is that of, a reality TV show. It's like keeping up with the Kardashians, just keeping up with the Joneses, man. It's frustrating to watch as a fan because at some point we just want to see some change and some new creative thought, and it seems like we get these old guys in continually. And I'm not saying that Dan Quinn or Mike McCarthy are bad coaches. It's just when you hire guys like that, they've been around the league so long that they're like, hey, I wonder if my buddy from 12 years ago wants to come out of retirement and come coach with me and help me out. We have literally we have somebody on staff right now that coached with Tom Landry. Like that's how old somebody is on our staff. It's one of those things, man. We've got to find the young guys that bring in that new thought process, and that's why I like Al Harris. He's a young guy. He's not afraid to talk to his players as if they were his like sons or something like that, which is talking to them sternly in a fatherly way, like, yo, I expect more out of you guys, not the buddy talk. He's like, hey, I need you. He's always pulling him telling him that he's proud of him. Like that is this type of stuff I want to see for the entire organization. And I think Mike is a good coach. I really do. I don't really mind Mike coming back, but at the same time, you're the head coach. It all falls on you. So your defense not performing like they should have, getting 40 dropped on your head, at your own house to a Packers team that hadn't scored 40 points all year is just downright embarrassing, man. It really is. And that brings me to my next question, I guess, was this kind of the best opportunity that the Cowboys have had in some time to get to the Super Bowl? Like the path to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, seems so much easier. Evidently not, but it seemed like that from the outside looking in. Packers that were, they weren't the same Packers team as we're accustomed to seeing. They didn't have that Hall of Fame quarterback at the helm. Then you probably had to face, a Lions team that you've already beat at your house. Then obviously that's your real test against the Niners. But man, it seems so much right in front of us that it could not be attained, and yet we fell flat on our face, man. Talk about that.
In my personal opinion, like it was set up for us to make a run, but at the same token, like we just talked about the glaring flaws of the Dallas Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? We just talked about us not being able to stop the run and then having to try and stop the Lions run game again. And we talked about not being able to stop the run and trying to stop the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey again in order to get to a Super Bowl. We talked about not being able to run the football and possibly putting too much pressure on Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So from a holistic standpoint of us being a 2 seed, having 2 guaranteed home games, we handle business. We dropped the ball in that regard. But when, like we said, when we compare our team top to bottom to these other NFL rosters that are making moves, we don't really stack up. You look at our linebacker room. Depleted by injury. Leighton Vander is not there. The Marvin Overshown not there. You got safeties playing linebacker. You got Damone Clark, who's been struggling all year long, playing meaningful snaps for you. You cut Evans because of you really weren't playing him any damn way, right? Then you look at your cornerbacks. Trayvon Diggs gone for the entire season after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The run Bland, while he had the interception record, for return touchdowns. He's given up quite a bit of yardage in the back half of the season. Same goal for Stephon Gilmore, who's a little bit long in the tooth. So top to bottom, when you look, do you talk about the issues along the offensive line? Terrence Steele was awful. We're just being honest about it, because I like Terrence Steele. I stood on the table for him to get paid. He did not live up to his contract this year, possibly due to his injury, but he didn't play well. Biadasz did not play well at all at the center position. So you had some holes. Like, I believe the Dallas Cowboys can put more talented teams together and have better shots, especially with the way that this schedule should be lining up next year. Because think about it. The Giants are still awful. The Commanders are still awful. The Philadelphia Eagles have not won a game in Dallas since
changing both their coordinators again.
Yep. Yeah, changing both coordinators, and they haven't won a game in Dallas since 2017. So you're at least going to split with them. That's 5 wins right there. Right, then you get an opportunity to play the Panthers again. They probably still won't be very good. You get an opportunity to play the Atlanta Falcons. They probably won't be very good. Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a piss poor defense. They probably won't be exceptional this upcoming season, right?
Probably going to lose Mike Evans.
Have an opportunity to win another 11, 12 games just with the way that the schedule falls. Even some of your tougher matchups, you get them at the crib. You play the Ravens in Dallas, right? So you got an opportunity to get back to 12-5 to 13-4, wherever you may get, and hopefully, man, you have a better team, because we've been one-dimensional. And listen, this is a team that has given up damn near 29 points per game when they play a team with a winning record.
Yeah,
right. That's not a championship caliber defense. We like Micah, we like D-Law, we got love for these players. But we're being completely honest. If you give up 29 points every time you see a playoff caliber team, you're probably not going to win a Super Bowl.
No,
right. No, and this is where I'm at with it. So I think the Dallas Cowboys did piss away a good opportunity, but I also know that they had a bunch of flaws that probably would have kept us from the promised land anyway.
Yeah, no, you've got a good point. You hit the nail on the head. I think that it starts with looking at what the four last teams in the playoffs had. They all had at least one good linebacker. I don't think that we have any. You can say Clark is good. I tend to differ with that thought. I just don't think that. Well. Yeah, I don't think that he sees it well. I think that he needs another linebacker next to him that really is like a Sean Lee cut from that cloth, that understands the game at a different level, to really get the best out of him. But yeah, I mean, Baltimore, they have those two. You talk about the Niners, they have those two in Greenlaw and Warner. And then the Chiefs have a really good linebacker as well. And Jack Campbell for the Lions is pretty good for a rookie. And then you talk about center play, man. Tyler Biadasz has not been good enough. He was dealing with a little bit of injuries this year, but overall, I think that all of those teams, at least 3 or 4, I think the Niners don't really have a great center, but 3 of the 4 teams right there have really good centers. And that helps so much. Just having somebody that can get up there and get to that second level and help when your guards aren't getting right, and he doesn't have a rusher coming from the interior like that. A good center could be the most important. I know everybody says left tackle, but it could be the most important offensive line position if you have a great one. You think about the Eagles and Jason Kelce and what he meant for that team, dictating, protection for Jalen Hurts and understanding leverage by how the defense aligns and saying, no, hey, I'm going to go this way on the run. We're going this way. I don't care what you say. Outruling your captain, your quarterback, like, that's crazy. That's what it is. Like, that's the championship pedigree. And obviously they didn't do anything with that, but they made it to the Super Bowl last year. You talk about all 3 of the 4 teams that were in the deep in the playoffs had really good centers that they invested capital in. And it's one of those things, man. I really want to see the Cowboys address those weaknesses. Center, linebacker, those big nasties in the trenches that can stop the run. I'm not just talking about Hankins. We need more than just one. So, yeah, I agree with you right there with the respects of, our flaws probably would have shown up it just showed up a hell of a lot earlier than what I was anticipating. Um, did you have anything else to say on about that?
Oh shit! Like I did a show with Boss Cowboy and Landlord from Alabama. When we were talking, and this was before the playoff teams were selected for us because they were still playing to see what the 7th seed was. I said then that the Packers were the last team that I wanted to see just based on the way they were playing. We already know Aaron Jones has had three, right? 3 great games against the Dallas Cowboys the last 3 times that he played us. And really, when you talk about Jordan Love, he was second in the league in passing touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like I know that they didn't have a great arsenal of wide receivers, and that what made it even more impressive. So
They had
he's
young guys
special.
that they addressed in the draft. They realized that hey, we don't really spend high draft capital on wide receivers. Let's change that thought process and go get some guys. They got Romeo Dobbs, they got Christian Watson, they got Jaden Reed out there. Those are 3 really good wide receivers that are young guys that had huge plays in that game. Then you talk about Musgrave and then the other tight end. I can't think of his name right now. Tucker Kraft,
Mhm.
and all of those guys are young guys, and they played well for that team, man. It's frustrating, man. But we got Regina in the chat said we got Hoff. What's your thoughts on these 2 young guys, um, Hoffman and
That's
TJ
TJ Bass.
Bass?
Well, TJ Bass was my pet cat coming out of the draft.
Yep.
I really liked him a lot. And I said that TJ Bass would be a plug and play player well before um or a 5th round pick. And actually, TJ Bass had a higher draft grade than him. TJ Bass had a 4th round grade on him coming out, and I'm not really sure how he ended up falling to being an undrafted free agent, but I'm thank God for that.
Yeah.
Right. But I really like TJ Bass. Um, but in regard to Hoffman, I think he was a more of a surprise for me. I didn't really expect Hoffman to show me anything, but he was good. Especially our run game looked way different. It looked way better when Hoffman and TJ Bass were in there playing side by side.
Yeah.
And listen, I give Tony Pollard a very hard time because he didn't live up to the $10 million that we gave him this year. But at the same time, like the offensive line did him no favors.
Facts.
It did him
No,
no favors.
I completely agree with you with Tony Pollard. Like, I think that he did rush back a little bit from the injury and wanted to prove that he was that bell cow kind of back that could run in between the tackles and get the tough yards. And I feel like he did a little bit too much of that at times, where he would Tony Pollard of the past would try to evade and juke the defender and get extra yards. He was trying to go Zeke mode and like lower his head and lower his shoulder into people, and it's not him. It's not what made him great.
Facts.
Um, but then on coming back to the full circle thing, just the run blocking was not good. I think that they really lacked that mentality of um, we're the offensive line and we do the dirty work, and we don't get our proper dues from doing that stuff, but we have that chip on our shoulder and we have that pride in that stuff. And it just didn't seem like that was very evident for this team. Uh, I know that there was a lot of injuries along the offensive line. Terrence Steele coming back from his injury. Zach Martin, I think, declined a little bit from what we were accustomed to seeing him, do. But maybe that is because he was having to help both Tyler Biadasz and Steele a little bit more than he typically does. Tyler Smith was great.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to cut down on some penalties, obviously, but
Obviously.
his improvement is dramatic. He got an All Pro nod this year, I believe, and it's just going to continue to go up for that guy. Tyron Smith played excellent, and when he was in there, but when he wasn't, when the Chuma Adogas of the world had to kick out there, it was bad. Just miscues. Leading to us getting behind the chains and having to call on Dak and rely on him a little bit too much in 3rd and long opportunities. So I trust that this offensive line has something in Hoffman and in TJ Bass. I just don't want to put all of our eggs in the basket because offensive linemen, it's not like tight end where you have one guy on the field or 2 if you're really heavy, and 20 or 12 personnel kind of things or 22 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do happen to draft a guy early on, second round. If he plays, if he's a swing tackle or something, or he plays the next year after one of your other guys retire, that's completely okay to me. I wouldn't throw shade at it like I did the Luke Schoonmaker pick, because I felt good about Jake Ferguson. At that time, I felt pretty good about Hendershot, but he was kind
Right.
of a disappointment as well this year. I'm kind of interested to see what John Stevens Jr. has in the tank. Coming off of that ACL injury, I believe it was ACL at least.
XACL.
Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see some of these young guys, especially Hoffman, Bass, John Stevens Jr. Um, just off the top of my head right there, and Overshown also as well coming back. But yeah, we just got to get better, figure it out, and let's just jump straight into, um, I guess let me get my stuff up here real quick.
Take
The
your time.
guys.
While you're doing that, shout out
Okay.
to Numbhand Neil for the $5 super chat. He said, spend the money we're about to clear on some top free agents to stop the run, specifically 2 DTs, 2 linebackers on offense, get a running back, offensive lineman, and maybe even a wide receiver. That's not a bad
Ooh,
idea, man. Matter of fact,
that's
do you
hey.
want to use that to segue into some cap talk?
Yeah, yep. Let's get straight into the cap talk, honestly. So these are the up and coming free agents that the Cowboys have here. Tony Pollard, 70.6% of the snaps that he played. Dorrance Armstrong, 41.7% of the snaps. Stephon Gilmore, 87.2. So that's a big portion. You're gonna have to look for somebody else outside, especially relying on Diggs to come back fully healthy, 100% off that ACL. Tyron Smith, we already talked about him being so good. And then Jaron Curse, 76.6% of the snaps. Jordan Lewis, 68.4. Dante Fowler, 25.2. Jonathan Hankins, 32.8. And Neville Gallimore, 26.9. Um, Out of those names, like, who sticks out to you the most? Who do you think that we should let go? Who do you think that we should re-sign? And chat, put your input in there as well, man.
For me, Tyron Smith is somebody I'm bringing back expeditiously, and this is like a full 180 for me, because before the season started in the off season, I was full, send Tyron Smith out the pasture because he don't play enough. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, he had only played a total of 17 games in the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. So he only gave you a season worth of football games in a 3-year stretch. So I liked him. I always acknowledge he was a great player when he played. It's just, the old cliche, the best ability is availability. And he wasn't giving me a lot of availability at the time. But now he's played double-digit games for me. He's been a Pro Bowler, All Pro, and he showed up. He showed up in the playoff game. He was available for that. So,
Yeah.
and I don't really want to go super young at left tackle, right? I know what I can get from Tyron Smith if he's out there playing. Still wouldn't stop me from drafting a left tackle, since apparently they're too stubborn to ever move Tyler Smith back out the left tackle again. So since they don't want to do that, you can still bring him back, team-friendly deal, incentivize the contract, as somebody in the chat box said. And then you can still draft you another left tackle in the first or the second round to develop and to be the heir apparent to him. So I would definitely bring back Tyron Smith. And I probably would also bring back Jonathan Hankins, just because I don't really have anybody else right now. I still would sign another defensive tackle as well. I would bring in a DJ Reader, a Sheldon Rankins, somebody that gives me a little bit more bang for my buck, so to speak, and also sign Hankins back, because Hankins only cost us like $1 million this last season. Yeah. So when you think about him only costing you $1 million or so, I think you got your money worth for the most part out of Hankins, because he was cheap. So whatever he gave you was pretty decent. But I still would bring him back for the cheap, bring Tyron Smith in. But as for Stephon Gilmore and some of these other guys that are a little bit longer in the tooth, I don't even know how healthy Stephon Gilmore will be, because he just had surgery, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Man, I don't know. I
think he did have to have
it wouldn't be surprising.
shoulder surgery.
Yeah, no, you're right, because he played through the torn labrum or something like that, right?
Yeah. So
yep.
No guarantee that he'll even be up to par, right? Because he had some decline. He played better than I thought he would this year. but he still was not, a corner that I wanted to just leave on these fast guys. We're in the NFL now where damn near everybody runs 4.3s. You're 30 years old. You probably lost a bit of a step. So yeah, man. Like I like Gilmore, but I just need a younger corner that can that has a little bit more speed. Come out there and do something for me. And I know we get Trey back, but I'm still concerned about that. Everybody that's come back from injury for the Dallas Cowboys has not looked like themselves. TP didn't. Donovan Wilson didn't even look like himself, right? He just came off of a 5-sack season, and he didn't come on really until the last part of the season.
Jordan Lewis, you can throw in there as well.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis coming back from a Lynch Frank injury in the foot. So yeah, a lot of the guys that come back from injury don't usually look like themselves right off the bat. So even though we're going to get number 7 back out, it may not be Trayvon Diggs, all the way.
Yeah, we've got like some split people in the comment section right here. Some people are saying bring Gilmore back. He's a cheap player and a good veteran leadership. Some people are saying nah, we don't want Gilmore back. Need to get younger in the CB2 position. I guess he's playing Bland in the slot more. I completely agree with the Tyron stuff. I was in the, understanding of like, hey, Tyron is that progress stopper. He's there when early on in the season, but he's going to eventually go down. And then you're looking around like, oh God, who do we have to replace him? And I didn't want to do that anymore. But this year, man, they figured something out with him, not having him practice, really just bubble wrapping him and allowing him to be that veteran that he is. Like, there's nothing that you could throw at Tyron Smith right now in his career that he hasn't seen. Mm-hmm. And so with that experience, with that veteran savvy, he probably doesn't need to practice all the time. And yes, it comes with a little bit of chemistry, stuff that he doesn't get of, kind of iron out with Tyler Smith. But at the end of the day, man, his health is more important than that little bit of chemistry that they would have and communication and stuff like that. And beside that, they go through walkthroughs, they go through, pregame, and they talk about stuff, and they're in film session together. They understand stuff. It's not like he's not ever talking to Tyler Smith or whatever, playing right next to him. So it's one of those things, man. I would like Tyron Smith back. I think that you can get him to stay for a cheaper deal and a team-friendly deal. He did it last year, restructured his deal, helped you out with that. And I truthfully think that he's one of those players, man. He has helped the Cowboys over and over in the past. I think that he really does want to end his career as a Cowboy. And I think that he's going to take a deal to stay here in Dallas because he wants to be one of those cornerstone pieces that helped us get to a Super Bowl. And not one of those guys that we're in the memory of, man, I wish we would have won a Super Bowl with him. I don't want to see a DeMarcus Ware situation with Tyron Smith where he goes to the Chiefs or somebody like that and he goes and wins a Super Bowl. I do not want to see that again. So keep Tyron Smith on this team. Jonathan Hankins, we already agreed on that. Cheap. He's one of your only run stuffers. Another veteran that hopefully if we get somebody in the draft or we get a younger guy that we can kind of mold that he can teach. I think that, and this is a big one. I don't even know if he was on the graphic. Maybe I missed him, but Tyler Biadasz. I'm moving on from Tyler Biadasz. I think that he lacks power. I just feel like he's not good enough in the run game. I think he's smart. I just don't think that physically he's good enough. Are you kind of on the same page? What's your thoughts on Tyler Biadasz, man?
Man, I think that Tyler Biadasz is an upgradable position right there, and I like him. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a decent player. You got all you can ask from a 4th round pick. But I think I would, like you said, I think you need a stronger center. I think you need somebody that can actually get to the second level, get those blocks. Because listen, a lot of the issues that we had running the football was right directly in the middle of the offensive line. Like if I'm not mistaken, the Dallas Cowboys averaged under a yard per attempt for runs up the middle.
Yeah,
that's not really
horrible.
That's not really a calling card of a good center play in the run game, man. So I like him, But I think that's definitely a position you can upgrade over. And listen, it's very hard to find a good center on the open market because teams don't usually let them get there. So you'll probably have to spend a higher draft pick on a center you can call your own and develop. Maybe you want to go with a Brock Hoffman who seems to play with a little bit more power, as you mentioned.
He plays
And
with a mentality of like, I want to hit you and I want to bury you every single time I lay my hand on you. And that's what I want in my center. I think that Tyler Biadasz has that mentality where he's kind of that, kind of hair on fire, which I guess, he's a redhead. So that's kind of funny. But
right.
regardless, I think that he plays with that. I just don't think he's strong enough to physically impose his power down after down after down and then get back up and let the defender know about it. I think that he gets overwhelmed a little bit, so he can't play with that edge. And that's a big thing. I think that we're lacking those guys that play with the edges, those Jake Fergusons. I want every single guy on my offense and defense to be that kind of guy that's gonna be up in your ear after a good play and let the defender or the offensive player know if they made a play on them. I want that Jake Ferguson getting up and signaling the first down in somebody's face. I want that, man.
Yeah, and that's a good mentality to have, man. Because the other players on the team will feed off stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We like you said, we seen it with Jake. We seen it with Dak Prescott when he's flexing in the defenders' faces after he runs them over for a first down. It's like in the Seattle game. So like I want my team to play with a little bit of an edge, man. And I want them to play with that edge regardless of the score. Because when we played the Green Bay Packers, if you saw the soundbite, they came in here. They said we were front runners. They said we were gonna punch us in the mouth, and they were gonna just have their way, and they did it. They said what they were gonna do, and they did it. I need my team to be able to go out there and hold their nuts. I need them to not take any kind of disrespect like that, and to play with a chip on their shoulders. Because listen, you should have all the motivation as the world being a player for the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody hates you. The national media hates you. A lot of the players around the league think y'all are overrated and get too much coverage and everything else. So like you should naturally have a chip on your shoulder to want to prove these people wrong.
Yeah.
So I need somebody with that mentality to be able to handle that, because that's something that's prevalent in the culture of the Dallas Cowboys right now. It's a bunch of Hollywood stuff going on right now. I need some real gangsters and some real ballers to come in here and right the ship.
Absolutely. Talking about this both corners that are on the free agency market now with the Cowboys, Jordan Lewis, Gilmore, proposes this would you rather question. Would you rather go with Gilmore, shift Bland back into the slot, have Diggs on the outside role, or would you rather Jordan Lewis into the slot, Bland and Diggs on the outside, if you had to pick one or the other?
Gun to my head, I bring Gilly back before I bring Jordan Lewis back, only because the run Bland in the slot is probably a better player than the run Bland the boundary corner. So I will still have my all-pro corner on the outside. I'll have a veteran corner on the outside, and then I'll have the run Bland back in the middle of my defense, and I can still bring in another corner, that I can groom behind Stephon Gilmore, or that can come in if Gilly gets nicked again or whatever to play on the outside. So I think when you put the run Bland back in the slot, you'll get better results, because you got some mixed results for the run Bland towards the end of the season. He got ate up by DK Metcalf. He got ate up in the Commanders game. He did not have a good showing in the playoff game. So there were some games that the run Bland got picked on, and dudes targeted him and went after him. And, he was probably the best corner that you had, and they still bullied him. So I think moving the run Bland back to the slot helps him, helps our overall defense, and it also helps with some of the looks that we can show. Like, yeah. I believe, part of the reason why we played so much zone in that playoff game is because of the Stephon Gilmore injury. Right. I believe that they tried to protect him. They didn't want him trying to play bump and run with that bad shoulder. So they switched the zone, in my opinion. I don't think that you had that issue if Gilmore was healthy, if Trayvon Diggs was out there, and if you had the run Bland back in the slot. You could man up all day in that look, as long as everybody is healthy.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that, and the snaps agree with that. It was, I think, 87% of the snaps for Gilly and only 68.8 for
J.
Lewis. I think that you have something in Israel Mukwamu in the slot. We saw it last year in the playoffs. I think that he can transition into that slot role if you need him to be. Um, Another name that wasn't on my list, I just didn't feel like including him, was Noah Igbenogany. So
Oh
we
yeah.
have three corners now that are headed to free agency. So corners a position of need in the draft for sure. Add that onto, already the linebacker, already the running back, offensive tackle, center. There's a lot of holes, and we got to figure out what to do in free agency. That all is set up by this. Zach Martin due 28.5 million. You can save 12.5 million with a restructure. Trayvon Diggs 7.9 million saved if you restructure him. Those two contracts supposedly are already in the works of trying to restructure and figure those things out. The other names I have here are Terrence Steele, which could
Uh-huh.
save you 4.9 mil. And then shifting over to here, you got Brandon Cooks. Depending on what you do, he's on the last year of his contract. But if you want to really push your chips in, you can save 4.5 million with him. And then Demarcus Lawrence, you could save 4.3 mil with him in the restructure. Obviously, I anticipate Dak Prescott's going to get that extension that will help with some cap relief as well. Do you look at those 5 contracts and, in particular, those last 3? As contracts you would be willing to move around their money to go all in and try to get somebody in that free agency class? You got the Patrick Queens, you got the Chris Jones, Justin Matabike's. There's so many, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. List goes on and on and on. Is that something you would look to do, or where are you at on that?
I would listen. I'm making all the roster moves. Honestly, I'm restructuring Zach Martin.
I
I'm
like that.
restructuring Trayvon Diggs. One that you ain't put up there. I'm cutting Michael Gallup for the $10 million
Michael.
savings. Post June 1st cut is
Yeah, I'm
like 9
cutting.
point. Yeah,
I'm
like
cutting Gallup
9.5.
and Rush. I think you've made your bed with Trey Lance. You got to
Mm-hmm.
roll with him. You got to cut Cooper Rush.
Yeah, so that, and like you mentioned, the Dak Prescott extension saves you about $26.2 million against the cap. CD Lamb extension saves you about $13 million because he'll be playing on his 5th-year option, and that's quite a bit of money right there. But an extension, you can move some of that money around and save about $13 million against the cap. The Dallas Cowboys honestly can clear about $60 to $70 million in cap
Mm-hmm.
room with just a
Mm-hmm.
couple of moves. I know you're $20 million in the hole, but having $50 million in cap space, you can go do some real shopping, improving your team, and you'll get to keep the young core together. So yeah, I'm definitely making most of those moves. And I like Brandon Cooks. I don't mind having Brandon Cooks around for one more year. Right.
No,
Because
I
listen, because you're gonna have to do something at the other wide receiver position anyway.
Yeah, I think that Brandon Cooks took a little bit to get accustomed to the offense, but once he got going, he was very good. He was a much better red zone target than I gave him credit for. I think that looking at the Texans, whenever he was with Houston, he wasn't a big red zone threat there. And quite frankly, whenever he scored a touchdown, it was probably like a 20-yard go or post route or something like that. So with how good he was on that, over and the 7 routes and stuff like that. I was surprised about that. So keep him. Obviously, he's already on contract, but you can restructure him, which pushes the money to dead cap next year. But if you really, really feel like, hey, we're not extending Mike McCarthy, we're gonna go for it. This 2024 season, you got to move around the money and you got to go after these guys in free agency, which brings me to free agency. We already talked about the guys that we would probably keep. Who is somebody from another team? If I told you, hey, money's not an option, here's your guy. You can only pick one from another team, and they're not going to franchise tag, nothing. He's going to get to free agency. Who do you want out of those big name guys?
It would probably either be Patrick Queen or Bobby Wagner, depending on how you view them at this point of their career. Of course, Bobby Wagner is a little bit older, but it will be a little bit cheaper. But Patrick Queen is a damn good linebacker, and he's the kind of linebacker that we haven't had. right? And it's not that he's even this huge linebacker. You know, Patrick Queen isn't a huge guy, but he's a real linebacker that's not scared of contact. He knows how to shed blocks. He can get up the field, impact the run game. You can blitz him and impact the pass game. So I like Patrick Queen. And I think if you had a linebacking room of Patrick Queen, DeMarvion Overshown, and either Damone Clark or another guy that you bring in, I think you have a much better linebacking room. But
Yep.
I'm looking at any linebacker right now. So either a Patrick Queen, either a Bobby Wagner, Devontae David. I wouldn't mind bringing him in. Devin White, somebody. I just need a real linebacker and not a hybrid safety playing the role.
Yeah. I think honestly, if you told me you could have anybody, it would be Chris Jones for me.
Chris
I
Jones,
think that
okay, that's a damn good
he's
one.
exactly who you want Mozzie to be. He's good in the run department, and he's a hell of a pass rusher from the interior who still has that juice left over, unlike an Aaron Donald who's kind of is declining a little bit. Still a hell of a player. Don't get me wrong, but Chris Jones, he's that dude that I really, really think that he would open up so much for Micah as well. I mean, you talk about the stunts that those two could run. You talk about who do you double team between him and Micah? It's just a no brainer. If he gets on the free open market, go find a way to get that dude. He is a monster. So I saw somebody up here bringing up Xavier Leggett, which is the South Carolina wide receiver. They got him at 6'3". He's actually more like
6'1".
6'1", 220 something. Supposedly can run a 4.3. I did a scouting report on him. I thought he was very, very good. I probably am going to have him. I haven't scouted every single wide receiver. Still haven't scouted Roma Dunze. But out of those guys, I think he's third overall in the wide receivers for me right now, behind obviously Neighbors and Harrison Jr. What was your thoughts on him if you watched him?
I've seen him. Oh, I have mixed feelings about him because he had a great season. You know what I'm saying? He had a great season, but this was really the only season that he had with that kind of production.
Yep.
Stuff like that sort of scares me because I don't know if that was a flash in the pan moment for you that you can not only replicate but replicate at a higher level, right? You could be 1,000-yard wide receiver in college, but that's very hard to do at the NFL level. But the physical traits are there. Like you said, he's not quite 6'3" like they initially said, 6'1".
Yep.
The game speed looks like he is a 4.3 guy. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
That like he definitely moves. If he's not a 4.3 guy, he at least has the explosive ability on the field. Because 40 times not nothing. The game speed is really what you want to look at. Because most of the time you're not running in a straight line any damn way.
This was my scouting report on him. Leggett is a smooth runner that has true runaway speed that translates to the next level. Pairing that with his body profile of 6'3", this is before the actual official numbers came out. 227. You've got yourself a bona fide X receiver that's got serious upside. Natural hands catcher, has a wide catch radius and overall strong hands. Solid in contested catches. Impressive body control up and against along the sidelines. Quick acceleration and ability to gear down just as quickly, allowing him to set up DBs on the double moves, the sluggos, hitches, comebacks. Comfortable moving back towards the ball underneath, effectively sealing the DBs from clicking and closing on balls that lack some velocity. Effective at boxing out DBs. Nice timing on high thrown balls where he can go up and get it. Plus in the return game as well. And I think that he can plant, cut, and really explode as a yards after the catch receiver. All of that sounds like the perfect pairing opposite of CD Lamb, in my opinion. I would really honestly, yes, you talk about the weaknesses with him is just that only one real year of high production, but man, he's got that juice that is I've said that
It's hard to
we've been
find.
searching since. So yes, hard to find. Yeah, I think we've been searching for a guy that can take a simple slant to the house since a Des Bryant, young Des Bryant, whenever he was doing that. And so it's one of those things, man. If you can get one of those guys, pair him with CeeDee Lamb, I really like it. And you can say, oh, we're good at wide receiver, but Cooks is on a 1-year deal. You're probably letting go of Gallup. Tolbert, you hope that you see that growth, but you don't really know. Jalen
Mhm.
Brooks, he's a late round guy. Turpin's not, he's a slot only receiver, really. So, do you really have that bona fide X wide receiver if you do let go of Gallup? I don't think you do. That opens up a huge role in this offense. And it's one of those things, man. I would probably be okay if you told me that he slid. I expect him to rise during the draft process and especially the combine. But if you told me he slid to the first, to what is it, 24 that we pick,
Mhm.
I might take the shot depending on the other players there, man. He's that good in my opinion. Um,
I
let's
like him.
go through some more of these comments. Autry Malachi, Corley, Western Kentucky, 5'11", 211, or yeah, 211, 4'4", wide receiver, yards after catch, master, low key a second round pick. I have not watched him, so I will add him to my list. Have you watched him at all?
I haven't watched him. I got a name for you though that I like, but
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened slated at. What are your thoughts on Torrey Horton?
Who? Sorry, who?
Torrey Horton,
I haven't watched him yet. So,
wide receiver, Colorado State. You should check him out.
oh no, Horton. Okay. I'm familiar with the player. I did before I got any all 22. I looked at him a little bit, just broadcast stuff. I did like him. I'm thinking probably third round, but I haven't actually scouted him. But yeah, he's an intriguing player, man. He's one of those guys that can play X. So I need to watch him more. I think I've only scouted like 11 wide receivers. But yeah, I'm interested in that guy. He popped off the screen in that in a lot of Colorado State games. I think I watched like 3 Colorado State games this past season, especially they also Colorado State also has that pretty decently good tight end as well.
Yeah, I like them. I like him
Um,
a lot.
that dude's a beast. And then on their edge, Muhammad or whatever, he's pretty good as well. So they've got some guys, honestly, for Colorado State. Um, apparently Roman Wilson impressed at day 1 of the Senior Bowl. Have not watched Roman Wilson yet. Is he was the Michigan wide receiver, right?
I believe so. It's hard to just go
It's
off the
so
name
dude,
and,
it's
and not see
so
the.
early in the process of this stuff. Um, let's see if
But
anybody else had any college prospects. People just saying, yeah, keep Cooks up there. Um, and Falcon confirmed that yeah, he was one of the Michigan wide receivers. Um,
Troy
yeah, I think that
Franklin.
those the Michigan wide receivers aren't one of those guys that I think, or any of them are really um, second round guys. Probably later third into that day 3 area for me. But I haven't really watched them on film like that. So maybe it was, JJ McCarthy not finding the open man. Maybe they were really creating separation downfield, but there's such a run heavy attack there that it's kind of null and void. Um,
Speaking of that, can I ask you a quick question? Oh, what are your thoughts about this JJ McCarthy hype, man? Because I don't see it.
so
I,
I
I just I
watched,
just don't see JJ McCarthy being a first round pick franchise quarterback for really any team, man. I'm not saying that as a knock or anything. I just don't see JJ McCarthy being that kind of quarterback. Like I think you probably could win
yeah,
with him, but I don't see how
I
how he's on everybody first round
I
grade.
really wanted to see JJ McCarthy actually air it out in the playoff games and stuff like that. The actual national title game, I think he only had like 16 pass attempts or something crazy like that. So it's one of those things, man. His eval is so hard because they don't ask him to go and throw it around the yard, man. One thing I've heard among scouts is that they really do think that he's a winner. One of those guys that have that pedigree, that mentality, that believes in himself and believes in his process. You saw on the sideline and stuff like that. He has his own shrink on the sideline, and he brushes his teeth with his left hand and stuff like that. I don't know how much I really play into that stuff, but I do think that at the NFL level, they're starting to understand, like, hey, these guys that win in college, they can start to win in the pros. We've seen it with the Brock Purdy's. We've seen it with Dak Prescott. I mean, he took a nobody program to the number one spot in the nation. We've seen it with so many other guys in the past that have been really good in college, but they kind of dropped down. Deshaun Watson. I mean, how good was he at Clemson? He dropped down the board. Obviously, still a first rounder, but it's almost like they overthink the traits too much a little bit. I don't love McCarthy. I still think May, Williams, LSU kid, um,
No, yeah,
Bo
Daniels.
Nix, Penix, you know, all of those guys I probably have over him. But I haven't like I really focus on needs for the Cowboys a lot of the time, so I haven't even watched really any of the
Quarterbacks.
all 22 footage. I did watch a little bit of JJ McCarthy though one night. Can't even remember who it was against, but um let's just say he didn't pop off the screen with the throws he was making. It was all in rhythm. And I think that if you're looking at somebody that's like, hey, can you run this offense and do the things required? I would take Bo Nix over JJ McCarthy because I think that in rhythm, first read type stuff, Bo Nix is very good in structure and he can buy you time with his legs. And obviously, JJ McCarthy can do some of that stuff with his legs as well. He's an underrated athlete, truthfully, but um, man, it's so hard with QB. The evals on those dudes is just, it's almost like throwing a dart at a board and hoping that you hit the bullseye.
Mhm.
Um, so I did see a question about Blake Corum, which I actually have scouted. I thought that Blake Corum was a 2, 3 kind of a guy. I don't have any first round running backs. I don't know if you've scouted any of those guys yet.
I mean, I
Um,
don't have a first round running back either. Probably the
yeah,
guy that would have been closest was Brooks, and I wouldn't take him in the first round now due to injury. And
I'm
even he, you know, same issue I had with Leggett. One real year of production.
Yeah, but he was stacked behind. Obviously, you got Johnson, Roshan Johnson, and then you got
Hmm.
Bijan. So he was buried in that depth chart a little bit. So I understand it from his point. But yeah, he was impressive, man. When he was on the field, he was very, very shifty. He picked up hard yards, man. He could take contact. He could continue to run in between the tackles, outside. Didn't matter. So I really did like Brooks. I did have to knock him down because of the injury a little bit. I think right now he's sitting at my RB4, but all of my guys are right there.
Right.
So you tell me, oh, we lost Corum. Who's next? Oh, Bucky Irving. He's next. Oh, okay. We just lost him. Oh, Benson. Okay, we're good. Yeah. Well, any of those guys, man, they're a little bit of different flavors. I think the biggest difference, obviously, between those guys, um, that I have kind of high on my list is Braylon Allen, just because he's so big, so different than those guys, and he's so young. He's like 20 years old, so needs to polish up as a pass protector. But overall, I think that if you can get him third, fourth round, you got something in that guy because he is big. He's more electric than Derrick Henry. I know the Henry comparisons are there, but man, he's one of those guys I would take a shot on because he's so young and he has so much potential that I just don't think that he's really tapped into yet. Um, and then what's my guy? Audric Estime from Notre Dame. I really, really like that guy. He reminded me a little bit of a DeMarco Murray, just the way that he ran. He kept his arm up like DeMarco used to do, you know, ready to hit the stiff arms and stuff like that. Um, talk about balance, just talk about vision. He sometimes he bounces runs outside a little bit too much for my liking, but other than that, man, I really did like a lot of these guys that I scouted as far as running backs. So, um, Autry's wanted me to drop into my top 5 running backs. Yeah, I'll just roll through them really quick. I gotta find my list. Um, for me, and I'm an Oregon fan, so maybe I'm a little bit biased on this, but I did have Bucky Irvin as my number one. I just thought that for such a compact guy, he had such a raw ability to break tackles and stay up after the contact, and then he has enough speed to finish the run. Um, needs to improve a little bit in the receiving game. And obviously, I didn't like how like I don't like his game translating as much to the pro level as say a Michigan running back that does take more snaps. Not from the pistol and looks like that, or direct snaps like some of the snaps that Bucky took. But overall, just going through this really quick. Nice job bouncing runs outside to gain extra yardage. Great vision, patience out of the backfield, good situational awareness at the position. Meets contact low behind his pads. Does a nice job keeping his feet moving to gain extra yardage. Consistently finds cutbacks lanes, exhibiting burst after his plant to exploit over pursuit from the linebackers. Nice wiggle, shimmy steps. Does all the running back stuff, stiff arm, spins, jukes, all that good stuff. Biggest weakness was just not good in pass pro. He's a smaller guy, 195. So that's where that is. Blake Corum's my second rated running back. Just highly productive at Michigan. You talk about a guy that has the contact balance, has the vision. He's better than given credit for in the run in the pass pro department. I think that he's pretty good as a receiving back as well. I just think that if you really asked him to be a bell cow guy, I think he could do it. It's just how long, because he has so much tread off of his tires being in that system where they ran him into the ground season after season. He also has some injury history. So it's one of those things, pick your flavor. Trey Benson was my number 3 guy, Florida State running back. Thought that he possessed a rare stop-start ability out of the backfield. Excellent combination of size, speed, acceleration, vision. He transferred from Oregon actually to Florida State, so familiar with him a little bit. Can be a big factor in the screen game. Runs routes pretty precisely for a running back out of the backfield. Can shed, break tackles, all that good stuff. Then I had Jonathan Brooks. We talked about him a little bit. And then I had Audric Estime as well. And that finished out my top 5. So I liked a lot of those guys, man. It's one of those things. Follow your stack. If you lose one, don't trade up to get one because you feel like they're so much better than the other guys. I think relatively you can get the same amount of production out of any of those guys as long as the blocking up front is good.
Okay. So let me ask you your thoughts on one running back you did not name. What you think about Will Shipley from the Clemson Tigers?
Will Shipley, I got him right here. He's my number 7th ranked running back. So solid vision, patience, understanding of the position to follow blocks and explode past them when necessary. Enough athleticism to bounce well-defended runs directed to the inside, back outside, and pick up positive yardage when the play would have been dead. Otherwise, impressive ability to make defenders miss in open space. Solid pass catcher out of that pistol formation, especially on running back option routes to the middle. Constantly picks up positive yardage when the point of attack is won by the interior O-line. So that just means he's following his blocks. He knows he has that IQ to follow his blocks and get those yards up the middle. He has the collection of spins, jukes, stiff arms, which I always count those things because not enough running backs do that. And nowadays, they just try to run past people. So I like to see those moves on film. Solid hands out of the backfield. Obviously utilized a little bit more in the receiving department this year from years past. I think that his tape shows a running back that consistently makes linebackers and safeties miss when given the opportunity. But obviously trying to shed those D linemen and stuff like that, he's not as good in that department. Weaknesses, I said he was a tough runner, but can get stood up when meeting contact a little bit. Needs to improve on playing behind his pads when the goal line territory or it's 3rd and short. Doesn't do a good enough job driving his feet when met with contact. Lacks overall power at the position. Currently not a good enough blocker to be an NFL 3-down back, in my opinion. And had some problems with ball security. 8 fumbles over his career. So liked him, didn't love him. I would have those first 4 guys, and I would actually probably kick up Audric Estime in my top 5 stack, and then Braylon Allen and Will Shipley are kind of in that next order. So, I think that he was a productive back at Clemson. I wouldn't say that he's one of those guys that make you feel like, oh, we got a difference maker if you draft him.
Right. And I can agree with that. Like I said, he didn't even have 1,000 yards this season. So,
Did you like him a little bit?
He's decent. You know what I'm saying? Like because the reason I asked, our top 5 is about the same. I think everybody top 5 for the running back class is about the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So There are some fringe guys, and then there's some guys I've been looking at in the later rounds. Like you talk about late round possible running backs to pick up. I really liked
You
Gore
like
Jr.
Frank? Yep, I was
Yeah,
just about to say Frank Gore Jr. Yep,
yeah, I really
smaller
like Frank
school
Gore
guy,
Jr.
but I like him, and he's at the Shrine Bowl, I believe. So, did you get a chance to go up there, man?
I have not been able to go up there. I was supposed to go up there tomorrow, but I had some shit come up uh health wise, so I couldn't actually make it up that way.
Okay.
But I definitely wanted to see him live in person. He said, the Black Mike Fisher, B Fatty, I missed you too, man. Thank you for the engagement.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any other prospects that you've been looking at that you would want to highlight, or should we kind of wrap it up? Um,
I
what's
mean,
your thoughts, man?
we can take a look at some offensive alignment if you wanted to, because I know that's a hot topic right now.
I've only scouted one.
Who have you scouted?
What's I can't even say his name.
Is it Powers Jackson?
No, he's really really good, and like I said, I'm an Oregon fan, so I'm already familiar with him a little bit. Very very good center. But no, the Oregon State right tackle, Felici Fuanga, I think is his name. Let me search it up so I'm not I'm not wrong about it. Um, yeah,
Mr.
Felici Fuaga.
Hold on, 1 second. Regina Green asked, "Do we think we will tag anybody?" I don't think anybody gets tagged this go around because there's nobody that's deserving of a tag. You can't tag CD Lamb because he's already on his fifth
Yeah,
year option. You can't tag Michael Parsons; he got years left. There's really
these
there's really
these are
nobody to
the main
tag.
names. Yeah, the only person that man, both of these guys are so up there in age. Tony Pollard would be too much.
Mm-hmm.
J-Ron, I don't want J-Ron back. I don't want, Jordan Lewis. Okay, if you say that he's on the team friendly deal, Dante Fowler wouldn't want to see back. I want to see a little bit more Sam Williams in an actual role that's accustomed to him instead of Gunner. I don't understand that.
Right.
So I don't think so unless you really wanted to go all in on Tyler Biadasz, but I don't like that.
Please no.
So yeah, I would probably say no. But yeah, I've only watched the one tackle for Oregon State. I thought he was a mauler in the run department. Thought he was very good in inside zone runs. Um, I didn't see him getting over his skis too much. That's one thing I look for in offensive tackles. I will not say I'm an offensive tackle guru. Go to Vach or Brian Broaddus for those guys for scouting on offensive tackles and interior guys. But I liked what he saw, man, and one of those guys that I think can help your run game instantly.
I mean, listen, we keep talking about the ability to run the football. So unless we address it up front as well, it doesn't really matter the running backs you bring in.
Yeah,
So I'm all for, bringing in some better blocking offensive linemen, right? Because trench warfare is the most important thing. If you can't win up front, offensively or defensively, you're going to have a long ass day. So I don't mind going out there and getting a guy like that, or getting Powers Jackson from Oregon, or
yeah.
maybe trying to see what the boy Morgan from Arizona does, even though I have some questions about his ability to consistently pass block at the NFL level. I do still have questions about that.
Morgan, just from, and I haven't scouted him, I haven't watched any film on him, but just from what I've heard, Morgan has played a lot of football over the past 3 years, and he had an injury that held him back, but then I guess he came back this year and he bounced straight back into prime. It wasn't like a Terrence Steele situation. He didn't take time. He was back and he was full fledged. He's an athletic guy. He's one of those guys that I really think could be there in the 20s, all dependent upon how we feel as a franchise. Because if there's one position I feel good about drafting in the first round, it's offensive tackle or offensive line somehow, some way. Because just our track record. I mean, Tyler
Right.
Smith, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Frederick. Shoot, who am I missing? Anybody else? I mean, just talking about those guys, man, that's an amazing track record. So if we do pick offensive tackle or transition them in guard, whatever it is, or center, I feel good about that, man. I really do.
Oh yeah, like listen, if they pick an offensive lineman in the first round, I'm gonna just trust it from there on out. Because I had questions about Tyler Smith coming out, and I was thankfully wrong about him. So
Yeah.
whatever move they make offensive line in the first round, I'm gonna live with it because, like you said, the track record says they get it right 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, have you watched Graham Barton out of Duke?
I have not.
So he's an offensive tackle, but he supposedly has position flex, can play all five positions. Played some center his freshman year. Now, here's the caveat: he's a big dude. He's like 6'7", I believe. So that's a big center,
Damn.
in the middle. But he's one of those guys, man. They love position flexibility, and you talk about not knowing the trajectory for your offensive line in the future. Who knows who retires first, Zach Martin or Tyron Smith? Who knows what happens with Tyler Smith? Is he a career guard? Does he kick out to left tackle? What happens with Tyler Biadasz? All of those questions can be answered. Obviously, you don't want to reach on the guy, but if he has that position flex where he can hit any of those positions and you feel good about him, he's an intriguing prospect, man.
Okay, so
Um,
I'm gonna have to check him out. He said his name was Graham Barton.
mhm.
Now I have another one for you that was a buzz name floating around right now. Tyler Guyton, tackle out of
Oklahoma.
yes.
So Tyler Guyton, from what I've heard, he's a big guy too. I think he's 6'7" as well. But he's a kind of cut from the same cloth of like a Tyron Smith. He's a specimen. Like he's big. He's athletic. I think really it's all about his technical stuff. Like, is he really um up on all those push pull techniques? Does he play his hands well? Does he flash the one hand to act like he's gonna push you off and then take it down and push you with the other? All of those little nuanced things. I don't think he's quite there. I haven't watched him. Like I said, like I haven't really gotten into these offensive tackles. Um, but just from what I'm hearing from the guys that I trust, the Dane Brulers of the world, the Brian Broadduses and stuff like that, he's an intriguing prospect, and he could be one of those risers late in the draft season because of his physical tools. So, did you get a chance to watch him?
Not as much as I wanted to. I just started offensive line not too long ago. He's not super high on my list. Like usually when I do draft, I start with the guys that I know. I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan. I saw a lot of people trying to give love to Bo Limmer. I don't really see it myself personally. He's a 6'5" center. But we had a lot of issues protection wise, and he was not a solution in that aspect. I like him. I think that he has decent strength, but I'm not really a big fan of Limmer. That was somebody they were trying to hype up that I'm familiar with. Um, Somebody that I do got a lot of love for though. Um, Let me see. Let me pull up my list for the guys that I had already scouted.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so J.C. Latham out of Alabama. Now I
Okay.
really I really like him as a prospect. I
Latham,
have
he's a true right tackle, isn't he?
yes, like I'm
Okay.
concerned. I have some concerns about him, but overall he's strong. He had a lot of time on task. He started a decent amount of games for them,
Hmm.
but I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys would be willing to move on because just given the fact that they just paid Terrence Steele, I don't know if they're at that level at the front office to admit that they made a mistake and double down on a position that they just paid. That's one of my concerns. I saw his
He
issues in
would
pass pro for Terrence Steele, and that needs to get better. But I don't really know if the Dallas Cowboys would even address it.
he would have to show that he can play left tackle or right tackle, and that's easier said than done. I don't think a lot of people
It's
realize
hard.
how different that is because when you're asked to play one, you're planting with one foot and you're kicking with the other one to get out wide, or you're driving in the run game to get to certain blocked areas. And it's one of those things. It's completely. It's almost like shooting with your left hand in basketball. That's how it
Mhm.
is to transition from the one side to the other. And obviously, these are the best athletes in the world. You know, they're going into the draft. They're they should be able to do it. But man, you can't bank on that, especially somebody that's always played right tackle at Alabama. And I think that he even had the option to go kick over to left tackle at one point, but the coaching staff opted to not. So I would like to hear the full story of that. If they were like, no, we'll keep you over here because you're good enough to stay over here. We feel good about that. Or we kind of tested some things out and we didn't really like what we saw at left tackle. So one of those things you want to dig a little bit deeper into. Troy Franklin got brought up here, 6'1", 190, might run a 4.2. He's in the top 10 somewhere. Top 10 overall players? I don't think so, and I'm an Oregon fan.
Mhm.
Top 10 wide receivers? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
I like Troy Franklin. There's a bunch of wide receivers that I'm already hip to. Of course, Xavier Worthy, Adonai
mm,
Mitchell. You talk about Marvin Harrison, who I don't even bring up because there's no way in hell
yeah,
he'll
no
be
way.
there.
Yep.
Like no way in hell. Neighbors, um, his running mate over there. People don't realize that his running mate is the one that actually
Brian
led the
Thompson.
team.
Yep.
Yes, in receiving touchdowns. So there's a ton of good wide receivers in this draft. Even if you wanted to wait to the third or second round to draft a wide receiver, there should be a prospect there that you could pair with CD Lamb,
Yeah.
right? Because we named all those people. We didn't even mention Leggett yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, you talk about the stack, and we didn't mention Adunze.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I really did like Xavier Worthy on tape. I thought that he had shades of Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison was my number one wide receiver last year. I think he finished second amongst rookie wide receivers. Obviously, Puka Nakua went crazy.
Mhm.
I had Puka Nakua higher than most people. I did not have him in the first round, but he went crazy. But yeah, I think that Xavier Worthy slider build, but man, he is so dangerous. The ball in his hands. We talked about it earlier. A guy that can take a play, a simple slant, and take it to the house. He has that type of speed. He can win in all three levels of the field. Has good hands. Shows nuance to his game at the top of his routes. I really do like him catching the ball with the back to the defenders because he has that little fake and then turn up field. Um, I liked him. It's just his build is so slight. So is he a Jordan Addison that can still produce year one, or is he more in the shades of a Jalen Hyatt that only can be utilized in the slot and really only on those goes, those posts, those deep routes? Question will be answered, I guess, whenever he gets drafted. But I don't really personally like Xavier Worthy as much paired up in Dallas just because I feel like he kind of takes out a little piece of CD Lamb's game, moving him into that slot.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things. I'm never impartial to getting another playmaker on my team, and I think that's what he is.
Right. Then where you think Keon Coleman falls?
Keon Coleman, I'm gonna be dead honest. I didn't like him as much as other people. I
Really?
just didn't think that he separated as well as I anticipated. And that's my number one thing. When I look at a wide receiver from college, I see what does the players around you look like? Because
Mhm.
if you're the only dog on your team and you're still producing, I put you up a lot for that. So like a Malik Washington for me is high on my wide receiver board because he was the only player, there for his team doing stuff. And I think he caught like 100 some balls this last season. Keon Coleman is a little bit opposite. I do think that Keon was held back a little bit by Jordan Travis in some respects. I just it's one of those things, man. I put a premium on separation, and he didn't separate enough for me. I thought that he was good in contested catch situations. I'll just read his scouting report if you want me to, real quick.
Yes, please.
Um, Off the top, man, I've watched so many players. It all gets mashed into one thing, so it's one of those things. Um, Combination of length, size, speed, strength, coveted at the next level. True X wide receiver that can win against press man. Got a ton of free releases in college, however. or soft zone. Has a wide catch radius, can haul in 50-50 balls, struggles with completing catches through physical contact. I know people said that he was good, absorbing hits and still coming down with it. The 3 games that I watched, he was not. Maybe I need to look into that a little bit more. Has some wiggle to his game in the open field, can be utilized in the return game with his combination of vision and balance. Excellent timing when going up and getting high balls. Dual sport athletes. He played at Michigan State basketball and football. Can be excellent in the red zone. And this is one of the things, like, if you told me, hey, we got you Keon Coleman, we're going to let go of Michael Gallup, I wouldn't hate it because I feel like he fits that role and he's
Right.
better now accustomed to the game.
And
However, my
bigger.
weaknesses, yeah, and bigger. My weakness is not a route technician, lacks sharpness, suddenness, and nuance at the top of his routes that causes NFL DBs problems. So he rounds off his routes, doesn't have that know-how to fight with the DB along the sidelines and not get squeezed, so it allows a throwing window for your quarterback. Stuff like that I just saw pop up a little bit on tape. Doesn't have a great release package. Good in jump ball situation, but has to get better hauling in catches when met with physicality, which safety coming and blowing you up over the middle. If the quarterback puts it on your hands, you got to catch it regardless if you're taking the hit, dog.
Right.
Needs to improve his blocking for such a big wide receiver. I thought he was going to be a dog in the blocking department. He was just okay. Felt like he was avoiding contact a little bit too much for a big guy. Would have liked to see him land a hit or two on DBs just to let them know, like, hey, I'm here, I'm big, I can hit you and make you feel it. I just felt like he could have done that a little bit more of that. Feels almost like an athletic tight end. I didn't want to roast this dude, but I just felt like that's kind of what he felt like to me. I didn't see that raw, like, super athlete. It felt more like he's good. I like him, but he's good against college DBs. Can he do the same thing and outmuscle NFL DBs? That's my biggest thing is, can you do that? And I just don't know, man. It's one of those things. It's a hard evaluation because if you told me, hey, Keon Coleman's the best wide receiver from this class, well, okay, I probably would say no way because there's other guys. I think Malik Neighbors and Harrison Jr. are so much better. But if you
Mm-hmm.
told me, hey, he was the 4th best, 3rd best wide receiver from this class, I'd be like, dang, I was wrong on him because I didn't see that separation. I didn't see that strength that will translate unquestionably to the NFL. I think he's going to have a hard time early on in his career. But it's one of those things, can he stick with it and can he get better at the things that he's lacked at Florida State?
Okay.
Did you
See, my,
like him? Did I kill your dreams right there?
not really, because the one thing I will say, because I'm open to any of these wide receivers. I don't really have a pet cat because I don't really believe the Dallas Cowboys will invest in that. If you told me like my boy Torrey Horton was on the was down there in the 3rd or 4th round and we passed on him, I might feel a little
Mm.
against that. Or if something crazy happened, let's
Let's
say there's a
replace one Colorado State wide receiver with another one. Send Michael Gallup
yeah,
off
send Michael Gallup off.
to the gulag
Yeah,
and get Horton in here.
yeah. See, I wouldn't mind that, but in regards to like the 1st round wide receivers, if you were to tell me that any one of them fell to 24, like I feel like the Dallas Cowboys still might pass on them.
Mm.
Given the fact that you're already finna pay CD Lamb, I think it's a good idea to get a wide receiver in the 1st round. Let me just throw that
Well,
out there.
it is out of like all the positions I've scouted thus far, it does stretch the longest out of all the positions I've really dove deep into. So if you told me you waited on a receiver in the 1st round and passed on one, I mean, as long as it's not Neighbors, Leggett,
Or
I really do think Leggett is going to just take the league by storm. I think that he's in that DK Metcalf cloth. Obviously, he doesn't have the same height as DK, so that comp kind of gets skewed a little bit. But man, I really feel like he's going to get that treatment. Like, oh, he had that okay production year, and then the other ones were kind of bad. He's a great athlete, but do we really trust that he's gonna? I think he is. I really do think he's gonna translate.
see, I think like I said, the guys that shouldn't be there. One of them fell. Like I would have a damn heart attack if the Dallas Cowboys passed on them. If Rome wasn't is there, you pass on them, I feel some type of way. If Neighbors there and you pass on them, I feel some type of way.
Yep.
Hell, at this point, Brian Thomas is a fringe first round pick in my opinion. Like he's a fringe first round pick, second round pick in my opinion, because that's damn good production.
I think Brian goes first round.
Yeah, because if he's there at 24, I would take him. Because like he got the size, he got the production, the 17 touchdowns, and like you said, if you get rid of Michael Gallup, that's the mold of wide receiver that you need. And I think he's a way better athlete than Michael Gallup is. So like if somebody like that were to fall into the later rounds of the first round and be there, like I would be upset. But like you stated, man, like this is a super deep wide receiving draft class. So if we were to wait second round, third round to pick one up, I wouldn't lose no sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. We're gonna have to reconvene this draft talk whenever we finally scouted more people, because this was fun. Just this last little bit of time talking about the guys. I lost track of time a little bit. So my meeting that I have after this, forgive me, the person that I'm supposed to be on the meeting with. I'm bad at that. But man, Henny, it was a pleasure having you on, man. Let the people know from my side where they can find you, Twitter, socials, YouTube, all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, man, it's Henny the Moore reporting live from the liquor store, man. You can tap in at HTMSports on YouTube, man. Just sub. We're on the road to 2K right now, so come over, support, show some love. You want to follow me on Twitter, it's @MoreHenny, and on Facebook, it's Henny the Moore, man. So just tap in with your boy. We can continue to get drunk in the liquor store, man.
He's even plugging the Facebook, man. I don't have the Facebook set up. No, yeah, if you guys are on Henny's side and you would like to check out my channel some more, it is Boys in the Zone. Also have it's popping up on your screen right there on Twitter as well. So follow that Twitter account. Post a lot of draft, analysis and stuff like that. Obviously, Cowboys side of things, I talk about, just spew my opinions. I'm not watching Cowboy specific film very much, but the college guys, I really dive deep into that stuff and get player breakdowns because I want to see this team get back to the promised land. I'm tired of watching this same, stuff happen. So at the end of the day, man, I just want the Cowboys to draft good players. That's all it comes down to. So let's do it. Thanks for getting on, man, and we will catch you guys next Tuesday. Peace.
Peace.